The IRA is considered by many to be a terrorist organisation. Do you agree with that?
Not at all. The IRA did not go to war. War came to us. What's George Washington and the boys who were fighting the British there? Were they terrorists?
We live in a world of conflicts. Some are as old as time. Others can happen overnight.
I'm Mariana van Zeller. As a correspondent, I've travelled around the globe and experienced conflict zones firsthand.
It was complete madness.
Everybody was culpable.
Including the two of you.
I know hope begins when two sides can come together. And nothing brings people together more than great food. So I asked my friend, acclaimed chef Michael Voltaggio, to join me. We have one goal, to gather people from all sides of a conflict around the table.
At what stage do you say no?
And see if breaking bread can lead to breaking borders. Belfast, the capital of Northern Ireland. Home to Stout, Stew, and the Titanic, which was built here in 1909. But this industrial city is also known for the Troubles, a violent conflict that broke out in 1968 and lasted for 30 years. The conflict revolved around who should rule Northern Ireland. Since it was separated from the rest of Ireland in 1921, Northern Ireland was held under British control. Catholic Republicans wanted it to be a part of a new united Ireland, while Protestant loyalists wanted it to remain under British rule. With the help of the British Army, the Protestant loyalists won the 30-Year War. In 1998, a peace treaty, known as the Good Friday Agreement, was signed, leaving Northern Ireland under British rule. But the war left Belfast divided, with a huge wall separating the two sides, and many wounds to heal. Today, tensions still simmer. Clashes often break out, especially during the summer when several annual marches take place. The largest march is the Orange Parade, which commemorates a Protestant loyalist victory in the year 1690. Michael and I have come to Belfast in the middle of the marching season. Our goal is to gather Protestant loyalists and Catholic Republicans for a meal in the historic Crumlin Road Jail and see how far the peace process has really come. We're on our way to the Catholic Republican side of Belfast to meet our local guide.
Hi.
Hi, Gerard.
Filmmaker Gerard Stratton.
We're right beside the peace wall.
Oh, yeah, it's right there.
You know, we're right in sort of what you might call nationalist West Belfast, and at the other side of that wall is Loyalist.
You were born and raised here. You're a Catholic yourself.
I'm a Catholic, born in West Belfast. I came from a family where my grandfather's Protestant. Yeah. I have two kids, and we want our children to be in an all-inclusive society.
So what's the first place you're taking us to?
What we're going to do is we're going to take you on a taxi tour of the Falls Road area, West Belfast, in the nationalist area. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take you on a taxi tour of the Loyalist area, but it won't be the same taxi. So you'll get out of one taxi and you'll go across the peace line to get into another taxi. Basically, there'll be a Catholic driver and a Protestant driver.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Hi, Terry. How are you
The
doing?
famous Black Cab tours stop at key locations specific to the conflict and are guided by former fighters from both sides. We're starting our tour on the Catholic Republican side.
And it's gaining momentum in the south. This is a Republican flag, and you have people who are killed during the conflict. But when these bodies were being lowered into the grave, loyalists attacked from the car park here and threw hand grenades and fired shots into the crowd.
So they're even being attacked while they're being buried?
Yep. This is all members of the IRA.
The Provisional IRA claimed that the soldiers shot dead last night.
The IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, was a paramilitary organization. It was made up mostly of Catholics that tried to force out the British Army from Northern Ireland through guerrilla warfare.
This morning, 5 cars blew up without warning.
The British government outlawed the IRA in 1974, and thousands of IRA fighters were imprisoned during the war, including our cab driver.
Yeah, I served time in prison.
You served time there as well?
Yeah.
For what?
For not running fast enough.
For not running fast enough? Were you part of the IRA? Were you a member of the IRA?
I was never convicted as being a member of the IRA.
So could you get in trouble if you said you were a member of the IRA?
Possibly.
So that's why you're not answering my question?
Possibly.
So what is this?
This is the collusion wall. It's people who've been killed either at the behest of the British government, with full knowledge of the British government, the police, the army, or members of the Loyalist paramilitary. These are the 17 victims of the plastic bullets. 8 of them have been children.
There's a girl there, Caroline Kelly. She was in the same housing estate as me, and she was just going to buy a carton of milk. She was killed 12 years of age.
And these are plastic bullets. That's what the fire engine. That's the ones they use today.
I mean, these are like solid, hard stuff. You hit this in the head or...
Hitting the head or hitting the chest, snap your heart instantly.
This is no joke. So it's not like these are just flying around random. These children were, there was aiming above, they were targets and they were shot.
A lot of times,
It's time to cross over to the other side of the wall, where our Protestant loyalist cab driver is waiting.
As you can see, folks, right now, what they call the loyalist Shankill Road. The Shankill Road is possibly the most loyalist heartland you will get in Northern Ireland.
And you're very proud of it.
I am proud of my heritage. I'm also proud of my culture. Here, obviously, you will see there was a pub where people went and had a drink, namely the Beardo Bar. We can see that the 5 innocent people who were perished of a terrorist bomb.
Who put the bomb in this bar?
Republican terrorists threw in the bomb. Let's just go into a little Shankill Memorial Park, and we call this little lamp our beacon of hope. It is lit, and it will never extinguish. So this lamp has been erected and dedicated to the memory of those innocent victims of the Shankill bombing, and to all innocent victims of terrorism from the Shankill community. So here we have, let's call it a peace walk. 45 foot high, 1.2 kilometres from end to end. And what it's supposed to do is keep the peace between the two sections of our community.
These are all signatures from people who've come from all over the world?
They come from all over the world. I'll give you the opportunity because you can also send your little signature on the wall. Yeah. When you come back, hopefully, it'll be away. The wall, the whole wall. That's cooking peace.
Oh, that is so cute. It's a chef's hat. I'm just going to put one word. That's peace in Portuguese.
With a wall that divides the two sides and wounds so deep, it's easy to see why there's still tension here. After a long morning, we head over to the famous Crown Bar on the Republican Catholic side of Belfast.
A lot of tourists would want to try some stew. It's usually potato, lamb, carrot, served with some wheaten bread and, of course, a pint of Guinness.
So I ordered this just to keep it fair. I mean, we are covering the conflict. We need a little bit of the UK here as well.
Oh, is there like a little border that runs between?
We'll draw a little line across the table here.
A little line there. So we would say sláinte, which means cheers in Gaelic. So tuck in.
It's like having a homemade dinner in the middle of a bar. This doesn't feel like restaurant food. It feels like food that you're going to have at your house. I'm going to eat this just to keep it fair.
I like the fish more than I actually like the batters.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
We spent a morning learning more about the Troubles. Now, it's time to meet our first dinner guest. Plum Smith is a Protestant loyalist. In the 1970s, he fought as a member of the Ulster Volunteer Force. The UVF was a paramilitary group and loyalist counterpart of the IRA, who wanted to keep Northern Ireland under British rule.
I grew up here on the Shankill Road, and most of the people who were involved in the conflict were under 25 years of age, and a lot of us ended up in prison.
Why did you get involved?
Like a lot of young men at that time were all born into the conflict. When it erupted, I felt that I was fighting for my community, and people on the nationalist side felt that they were fighting for theirs.
How many years were you in prison?
10 years.
10 years. Why were you arrested?
For attempted murder, for shooting somebody. But when I say that, I don't say it glibly. I mean, that was the way it was then. You know, people were getting shot every night, shot every day, blew up. You know, it was a war zone.
Who were you trying to kill?
A Catholic on the other side.
Somebody that you knew?
No, I mean, in those days, I mean, it was just tit for tat.
Was it a Catholic that belonged to the IRA, or it didn't matter?
It didn't matter in those days. I mean, because Protestants were being shot for just being Protestants. So it was a sectarian war. You know, irrespective of what people may say, the vast majority of people get killed with innocent people.
I mean, you can tell that just by all the memorials all over town here. I mean, it seems like every block you walk down, there's a little plaque or a little memorial.
And this is a very close-knit community.
How old were you when you went to prison?
17.
You were 17?
Yeah.
So you're hosting this meal at the same prison where you were imprisoned?
Yeah.
And you're going to sit down with people from all sides of the conflict. So not only would you not be sitting at the table with Gerard at the time, could have possibly even tried to kill him because he was a Catholic.
But once the trouble erupted, I mean, Belfast became very segregated. Protestants lived in Protestant areas and Catholics lived in Catholic areas. So if either party crossed into their territory, they were possibly killed. So that's, I mean, it was a war zone we were living in.
Did you ever regret it?
You will not get an ex-prisoner to say that I didn't create the conflict. Once the dogs of war are let out, I mean, it becomes just a mirage of killing.
We're surprised by Plum's candor, which makes me wonder, Will our next guest, a Catholic Republican, be as open with us tomorrow? But first, it's time for a drink. Michael and I are heading back to our hotel to meet the bartender who's been serving cocktails there since the early 1970s, when the Europa became the most bombed hotel in the world.
I'm going to give you an Irish smile in a glass. So this is an after-dinner drink, a brandy, Tia Maria, with cream floating on top of it, and a mint. And after 3 or 4 of them, you'll be smiling no matter where you come from.
Why this hotel? Such a target?
The world press stayed here. And everyone who was doing it knew they were going to get worldwide publicity.
So during the war, this was an open hotel. Did you have to serve both sides of the
I served both sides, yes. I'm full committed to the hotel. The customer comes first, no matter who they are.
Paddy, this is the biggest smile I've ever had.
Cheap date.
As the day winds down, Protestant loyalists are gearing up for the Orange Parade. For Protestants, this is a big celebration. For Catholics, it's a reminder of their defeat. Amidst all the preparations, I can't help but feel anxious. Will there be fighting in the streets tonight? It's the morning before our Loyalists' Orange Parade and our dinner at the Crumlin Road Jail. Yesterday, we met Plum Smith, a Protestant loyalist who spent time in that same prison for attempted murder of a Republican Catholic. A Catholic like our next guest, Liam Stone.
How you doing, Mariana?
Decades ago, Liam fought as a civilian to end British rule and for a united Ireland. Today, he's invited us to a traditional Irish breakfast.
This is what's known as the Ulster fry. There's 9 different parts to it, but this is produce from the 9 counties of the historic province of Ulster. It's particularly beneficial the morning after a night's drinking. A fry is considered to be one of the best hangover cures that you have. Yep.
Do you get a prize or a T-shirt if you finish everything?
We would have various ways of encouraging people to eat up. The favourite one is eat up, you're in your grannies.
You think that all the meats are going to taste similar, but they're all unique in flavour.
The walls of Belfast tell many stories. The city is covered with amazing murals that teach us about its culture and history. Liam wants us to see the most iconic ones on the Catholic Republican side.
This is the Belfast headquarters of Sinn Féin.
Sinn Féin is an Irish political party and former arm of the IRA. Their goal, a united Ireland. Painted on the side of this building is a memorial to Bobby Sands.
This is the iconic mural of Bobby Sands.
He's one of the biggest symbols of the
republicanism.
Struggle.
Bobby Sands, member of the outlawed Irish Republican Army, dies after starving himself in a Belfast jail.
Sands was a member of the IRA who led the famous 1981 Irish hunger strikes, in which Republican prisoners protested that the British government treated them as criminals instead of as political prisoners. During the hunger strike, Sands was elected to the British Parliament before dying of starvation.
You were in jail.
That's
you
right.
were in prison. For what?
I was in prison for possession of weapons and wounding with intent. And I spent 7 years as a political prisoner.
So you were involved in the hunger strikes or any of that?
The British government embarked on a new strategy. If we capture any Republicans after the 1st of March 1976, they are criminals. Right? I was captured on the 15th of February 1976. Bobby and Emmons were captured after the 1st of March. So whilst I was being treated as a political prisoner, the British government was attempting to treat Bobby and his comrades as criminals. And that culminated in the hunger strikes of 1981 when about 10 young Republicans died on hunger strike.
If Liam had been arrested only 2 weeks later than he was, he would have been treated not as a political prisoner, but as a criminal, like Bobby Sands.
Were you part of the IRA?
No, I was an active Republican.
What do you think of the IRA?
I think they were a legitimate organisation, that they fought a very heroic battle against overwhelming odds. Did they get everything right all the time? No.
So our loyalist guest yesterday said that it was a tit-for-tat war, as he said.
No. The IRA was at war with the British state, right? And loyalists aligned themselves with the British state.
The IRA is considered by many to be a terrorist organisation. Do you agree with that?
Not at all. The IRA did not go to war in 1969, 1970, 1971. Right? War came to us. During war, you have to fight it as hard and as ruthlessly as possible, and that's what the IRA did.
On both sides, I've seen the word murder being used. So these people that are now politicians, are they murderers?
No, anybody that fights in a legitimate war, Michael, are not murderers, right? It's not that long ago from America was fighting Britain. I'll pose the question back to you, right? Is George Washington a murderer?
I think what's interesting is that the prison was segregated, and no one ever had dinner together. Obviously, this side ate on this side. And now we're going to bring them together, having a meal in that prison.
So far, we've met 2 of our dinner guests, and they couldn't be more opposed to each other's ideals. Tomorrow, they will sit together for the first time in the very prison where they both served time for trying to kill members of each other's religious groups. Later, we will meet our 3rd guest. But first, it's time to hit the road and enjoy the beauty of Northern Ireland. About an hour's drive north of Belfast is the idyllic Antrim coast.
This is Dunluce Castle, and you're standing on the Causeway coast.
It's something like this. This has been here since like the 1600s, right?
Yeah, around that time.
Beautiful.
A little nicer than the castles in Malibu.
Yes, the Malibu castles, I believe, are okay, but not just up to this type of scratch.
This is just a wee bit older than the Malibu castle.
Next, we pass by some of the picturesque locations where the popular fantasy TV series Game of Thrones is filmed, including the famous Black Hedges and the Ballantoy Harbour.
This is what it feels like to stand inside of a postcard.
Standing among the cliffs of the surreal and stunning Antrim coastline, it's hard for me to reconcile that so much violence and conflict is surrounded by such magnificent beauty. Just 50 miles away in Belfast, Protestant loyalists have built bonfire towers all over the city, many very close to Catholic neighborhoods. The towers are built to kick off tomorrow's Orange Parade. Pictures of Republican politicians and the Irish flag are hung on the pallets. Tonight, they will be set ablaze. Outside of Belfast in Northern Ireland, Michael and I have been traveling along the serene Antrim coast. Deeper into the countryside, we stop at the Glenarm Castle, where they breed Shorthorn Dexter cattle. Michael, of course, wants to pick up some fresh beef for our dinner.
It's not a bad yard for a barbecue, huh?
One of the secrets to this tasting so good as well is because we use clover in the grass. So it's clover-fed beef. But the other half is, of course, it's aged in this Himalayan salt all the way from Afghanistan for 30 days.
So it's aged with the Himalayan sea salt around the outside of the aging room. There's a bit of humidity in there as well.
There's humidity there while it's aging, yeah.
The clover gives it a really interesting flavor. This is just good quality meat. This is definitely going to be an upgrade for some of the meals that have been served in the past in the Crumlin. You think the ex-prisoners will prefer this over the meals that they've had in the past?
No, they prefer porridge.
Porridge.
It's time to return to Belfast. Michael is hungry and wants to try the local oysters.
These are our Donegal oysters. They come from probably the cleanest waters in Europe. There you go, chef, try that.
That big boy.
Like a little piece of heavenly sea.
Now, something to wash down the oysters with. Trendy bars and clubs have been opening all over Belfast in recent years. And Michael has already found his new favorite spot.
Yeah, it's called Love and Death.
Oh, cool. This is the menu?
So yeah, it's set up like a comic book. They're all about making cocktails.
Live life abundantly, for what is life but love and death?
And a couple cocktails, hopefully. Cheers.
Wine check.
Order one more. This place is pretty cool.
Tomorrow we have our meal in a prison, and I think it's possibly going to be one of the most interesting experiences we'll ever have.
I'm just wondering how you laid out the events for tonight, because you've got us on a pub crawl, ending up in prison tomorrow. I might have to wake up tomorrow and have an oyster fry before I start cooking.
As night falls over Belfast, Protestant loyalists start lighting up bonfires ahead of tomorrow's Orange Parade. Crowds gather all over the city and cheer as the Irish flag, the tricolour, goes up in flames. As we watch, I can only imagine how these fires must stoke the emotions of Catholic Republicans. Will this strong feeling continue to burn tomorrow? As the city awakens, Protestant loyalist bonfires are still burning. It's a controversial day. The day of the Orange Parade. Protestant loyalists march to celebrate the Battle of Boyne from 1690, when Prince William beat the Catholic king, James II. For many Catholics, this is a day of provocation. Throughout the year, some Protestant loyalists campaigned to be able to march in predominantly Catholic Republican areas. This year, the local government did not grant that permission, so the parade can only march through Protestant loyalist and mixed areas. No one knows what to expect. To prevent violence, heavily armed police patrol the city. Meanwhile, Michael heads out to shop for tonight's dinner.
St. George's Market, one of my favourite places in Belfast. It's been here for forever. Friday Market is real Belfast.
This is where you get produce, fish, meat, everything.
Anything you want.
I mean, they have everything you can eat here. I don't even know where to start. Eventually, I got to start cooking today.
Me too.
I wanted to grab some monkfish. Look at the size of those things. It's not the most beautiful fish in the water, but it's definitely one of the most tasty.
That's just the tail.
I'm going to roast them right on the bone. So I'll take all 3 of those. These are the whelks.
They're the whelks, or we would call them willocks. You gathered them yourself?
Yep. These are delicious.
Great, aren't they?
We'll take 2 bags of mussels.
Mussels in Ireland.
Best mussels in Ireland. And I want to get a little bit of smoked cod. It's nice, beautiful. This guy wants to go back to the water. He's not too happy. Pretty good job for Mariana today, too, to sit there and clean all the peas. It's like candy in a wrapper. Running out of hands here. We're looking for some Irish cheeses for after the meal. That's delicious. It's nutty and mature.
This is a 6-month-old Irish cheddar veined with Guinness or porter through it.
So this is cheese that's marbled with Guinness.
Yeah.
We put Guinness in everything.
We'll get a little chunk of this one, and this one.
We'll have our bread here.
Oh, wow. So this is made from Guinness. Coming a little theme here.
Later, on their way to the Crumlin Road Jail, Michael and Gerard, a Catholic, cross paths with the Protestant Loyalist Parade.
I mean, it almost feels very much like a holiday. It's not a holiday for you, though, is it?
It's sort of not a holiday for me. It's mixed emotion. Although I'm Catholic, my grandfather was Protestant. And I have very fond memories of spending time with him, so it's bringing back memories. But I have to admit, I also sort of hate it. My heart tells me that every pound of that drum is pounding against me being a Catholic. I just think what it does is it perpetuates and reminds us of the division here.
Fortunately, this is the first time I've ever been in prison. Unfortunately, I'm cooking in a prison.
As Michael begins preparing our meal, I'm meeting Derek Henderson, a journalist who covered the Northern Irish conflict for more than 30 years.
So how was it for you covering the conflict?
It was very difficult because go and knock on somebody's door, intrude on their grief, and you were motivated by one thing and one thing only, was to get the story. There were times, you were ashamed of yourself. I remember one incident, a young man being shot dead in South Belfast, and I went over to knock on his mother's door in East Belfast, and I said I was sorry for her troubles, and she says, "What troubles?" And I says, "Did you not know your son was shot dead?"
She didn't know.
He didn't know. I'll never forget it, actually. This lady came to the front, she answered the knock on the door. Her father had been shot dead the previous day. Her eyes were all red, and she had a handkerchief. I walked down the path that day, right, and I swore I would never knock another door again, and I didn't do it. I just said, right, that's it, I've had enough. Belfast is still a very divided city. Instead of those walls going down, we seem to be building more and more walls. You've got these parades going on today, people are on tenterhooks, people are worried, they're fearful, and we shouldn't be in that position.
Out in the streets of Belfast, tension continues to build as the Protestant Loyalist parades are now heading into mixed Catholic Protestant neighborhoods. Some marching bands stay off the drums out of respect for the Republican Catholics living here. Others hammer their drums as loud as they can. Interactions between the Protestant loyalists and Catholic Republicans become aggressive and heated. Riot police stand by, ready to act if any fighting breaks out. It's the afternoon of July 12th in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and the annual Orange Parade is making its way through the city. At the Crumlin Road Jail, Michael is already cooking for tonight's dinner.
Hi. Wow, you got a lot done already.
We went out to the markets and like all the marches started happening, but it didn't feel like a day of celebration. It feels more like a day of, I don't know if it's like a day of remembrance or a day of provoking or a day of
stoking, right? Stoking old memories too.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how the guests feel about the marches tonight. Hopefully everybody will agree that the meal is awesome.
The Crumlin Road Jail is a notorious Victorian-era prison in North Belfast. Though it's been out of service since 1996, the prison still conjures visceral memories. Over the years, tens of thousands of people were imprisoned here, including our first guest, Plum Smith, a Protestant loyalist who served time for the attempted murder of a Catholic Republican.
Now you can walk in and out freely.
Now you can walk in the front door and out, back out again. That's the most important
thing. And back out.
Liam Stone, a Catholic Republican, also served time here after being engaged in a shootout with the British military.
Any time that I came into this prison, I was always handcuffed, so I found it strange just walking in through the door.
Journalist Derek Henderson covered the war, but has never actually been inside the prison.
I spent 40 years outside the gates of the jail looking to get in to talk to these guys, and this is the first time we've done it.
So is this the way that you'd go in before?
No. Every prisoner that came into prison had to go through what they call the reception. When you came in, that you were put into one of these cubicles here. You had to strip completely of all your clothes. You had to hand over all your rings, watches, anything personal. And then you were given a prison uniform and shoes, which may or may not have fitted. And you were given a number. And you carried that number with you for the rest of your period.
Do you remember all of this?
I think it was either 7 or 8. There was actually an outbreak of scabies in the prison. Doused on a white powder.
What was it?
I have no idea. At that stage, I asked as little questions as possible, you know.
I've never seen anything quite like this before. These cubicles they look like horse boxes. You only can begin to imagine what it was like when these two gentlemen arrived here.
You come in a person, and when you go out of here, you're depersonalised. Just a number.
Just a number.
Yep.
So come in a person and you go out a number.
You go out a number.
This is about 1/10 of what's about to hit the table. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to some of you. Hopefully this will create a more fond memory from the last time. I learned the other day that in solitary confinement, it was common to only be fed bread and water here in the prison. So what we have here is a take on a traditional Irish salad, which has boiled eggs in it, with some soda bread croutons and some watercress. So it's a bread and water salad. Here is my take on cabbage and potatoes. The sauce on it is made from the oysters and the mussels that are local here. We've got some beautiful salt dry aged ribeyes. We've got some local monkfish with capers, hazelnuts, and dill. And then over here, we've got champ and fish fingers. So it's a combination of fish and chips, champ, all that stuff mixed into one dish, rolled up. Here you've got the oysters, sucked fresh and raw.
Certainly it's better than what we were used to eating in here.
A little bit different than what you've had in the past here, I'm sure.
Quite different in spuds,
Plum has never tried an oyster like that.
Well, it was always the first time.
This has been amazing, incredible.
Cheers to the guests.
To everybody.
I didn't go out looking for war. War came to me. See, when I was growing up in the 60s, I didn't want to be a guerrilla fighter or a political prisoner or a political activist. None of them things. I wanted to be like hundreds of other young Belfast boys
The next Georgie Best?
The best soccer player
in the world.
And instead, you ended up being a Republican, fighting for your cause. And you ended up actually a prisoner here in this jail, just like you were.
Yeah. 40 years ago, one of the pillars of Irish society was the Catholic Church and their priests. I was a 13-year-old wee boy, and I seen this army coming into the area that I lived in and shooting dead a Catholic priest, along with 10 other people, and nothing happened. I can remember what it was like in Belfast in 1971, 72, 73, right? It was complete and utter madness. It was just chaotic. And it was, let me finish. And it was a free-for-all. I remember the Loyalists, for instance, when they were grabbing Catholics.
Oh, hold on, man.
Let me finish.
Let
me finish. Torturing them, brutalising them, killing them, right? But then, what were the area up to? They were just as bigoted and sectarian as a Loyalist. Right, we're back to disagreeing out there, right? But here's a very substantial difference, Derek, right? The British Army were forces of the state. Right? So here's the forces of a state that is supposed to protect all the people that lives within its boundaries equally. Right? And then forces of the state come in and shoot whoever they want willy-nilly, and nothing is said or done. What as a 13-year-old, should I sit back and wait until they kill another 100? No, just let me finish, right? Should I sit back and let them kill another 100? Or kill another 1,000? At what stage do you turn around and say, no, I'm not accepting this?
Excuse me, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's things being said there which are not correct.
That you don't agree with?
What? No.
What you don't agree with?
Inside the infamous Crumlin Road Jail in Belfast, Northern Ireland, Michael and I are having dinner with a Protestant loyalist, a Catholic Republican, and a veteran Irish journalist who covered the 30-year war.
Should I sit back and let them kill another 100? Or kill another 1,000? At what stage do you turn around and say, no, I'm not accepting this?
Excuse me, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's things being said there which are not correct. Are totally correct.
Which you don't agree with?
What? No.
What you don't agree with?
Everybody was culpable to the conflict, including the churches, right? Including the politicians. Everybody was, including the middle class.
Including by the two of you. I mean,
it was because people didn't discuss things. In 1971, 72, it was a different environment completely, a different world completely. Nobody thought, that there was going to be over 30 years of conflict, or we're going to have a war, so many people were going to be killed.
After, we signed the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. And yes, we are in a good place, but as I say, we should be in a far better place. I think sectarianism still remains the biggest killer in this country. Sectarianism kills everybody.
The thing is, when you have 30 years of conflict, and you could actually say 200 years of conflict, you can't turn a war off like a water tap. We'll have war today, peace tomorrow. There is still a raw nerve there of people who have had people killed, relatives killed. You can't just change it overnight. Why we must remember the past? We can't dwell on the past.
So with that said, what do you think of the marches? For so many people, is sort of stoking the fire and bringing back of so many bad memories.
But I can be tolerant in all things. I know if Republicans want to march and commemorate theirs, fair enough, let them do it. If Protestants want to, let them do it. I have no problem with that. If anybody else wants to march, they can march all they want.
What do you think of the marches?
If they want to do it in their own areas, fair enough. They should not be marching where they're not wanted.
I found myself in the middle of the marches, and I found myself at the city center, and it seemed very positive, and it almost felt like a celebration. And then once I got to this other part of town, it completely changed, and people were yelling and screaming at each other. And to me, that didn't feel like anyone was moving forward.
10 years or 15 years ago, it could have evolved into a big major riot. It didn't.
The amount of hassle in the round orange parades has diminished dramatically.
Peace is a work in progress. It's not something that you solve overnight. It maybe takes another generation.
Plum actually says that there's two processes at work. One is the political process, but the other one is the peace process. And that goes on day and daily. And tonight's activity is even an example of that peace process.
Is this, though, the Northern Ireland that you fought for? Is this the Northern Ireland that you came to prison for?
No, it's not. I'm a Republican. I don't believe that the British government has any right to make any decisions in relation to Ireland. It's up to us. It's up to Plum, it's up to me, it's up to Derek, it's up to Ger. It's up to the people of this act.
Plum, do you think that Northern Ireland will ever be a part of Ireland, a united Ireland?
Not of a united Ireland, no. But I think that in the 10, 15 years of time, we don't know.
So Plum, one of the reasons you ended up here in this prison was because you actually went out and tried to kill Catholics just like Liam here. What has changed in you?
Obviously, as you get older, you learn. Yeah, you say to yourself, was it worth it? Was it worth all those lives? Was it worth all those people that was killed? All those people who suffered? So you come to the conclusion that's not. And you come to the conclusion that what do you want for your own children? What do you want for your grandchildren? Do you want them to go through the same hell that we went through? And you don't. It would be a psychopath would want that there, you know.
And we can all engage in a whole series of what ifs. You know, what if this had happened instead of this? And we may never agree, but the one thing that we do agree on is that we're not going back there.